Is the moon really a natural celestial body? Have you ever looked up at the moon and felt something wasn't right? It's always there, quiet, cold, watching. But what if the moon isn't what we've been told? What if it was placed there? And what if its very existence is part of something much bigger and much more terrifying? Let's dig deep, because once you see the signs, you can't unsee them. The moon, too perfect to be natural. For centuries, humans have looked to the moon for guidance in calendars, in crops, even in myth and dreams. It controls the tides, the rhythms of Earth, even the behavior of animals and people. But what if it wasn't supposed to be there? Astronomers have long whispered a troubling truth. The moon is too perfect. Its size, just enough to create total solar eclipses where it fits exactly over the sun in the sky. Its distance, 384,400 kilometers, precisely calibrated to produce visual phenomena that boggle the mind. Scientists have calculated that the odds of this alignment happening by chance are astronomically small. So we have to ask, is the moon natural or manufactured? The Apollo 12 shock. The moon rang like a bell. In 1969, something strange happened, and it was very real. During the Apollo 12 mission, NASA intentionally crashed the lunar module onto the surface of the moon. Why? To test seismic sensors left there earlier. The impact should have created vibrations and then silence. But what actually happened stunned the scientists. The moon rang like a bell for nearly 3 hours. NASA recorded the tremors echoing deep inside a phenomenon known natural. Solid celestial bodies should be capable of. Thomas Gold, a physicist at Cornell University, commented on the findings. The moon behaves like a hollow shell. This is not science fiction. This is recorded NASA data, and yet it wasn't widely reported. Why? Soviet secrets. The hollow moon theory. While the Western world debated what had happened during Apollo, Soviet scientists had already gone further. In the 1970s, Soviet authors Michael Vassin and Alexander Sherbakov proposed a radical theory in a paper titled, "Is the Moon the Creation of an Intelligence?" They argued that the moon might not be a natural satellite at all, but rather a gigantic, ancient spaceship covered by an outer crust reinforced with metallic layers and possibly hollow inside. Their theory, shocking at the time, was based on the moon's unusually low density, the perfectly circular orbit, no other natural moon orbits like that, the lack of large metallic core unlike other rocky celestial bodies, the presence of heavy metals like titanium on the surface in amounts unnatural for such an object. Even more disturbing, the moon seems to have entered Earth's orbit suddenly within recorded human history. Ancient Sumerian texts refer to a time before there was a moon. So where did it come from? Mathematics versus nature. Let's look at the numbers. The moon's size is 1/400th the size of the sun. Its distance from Earth, 1/400th the distance to the sun. That's why it fits perfectly in front of the sun during eclipses, a cosmic coincidence so rare, so mathematically unlikely, it defies belief, coincidence, or calculation. NASA scientist Robin Britt once said, "It seems easier to explain the non-existence of the moon than its existence." Let that sink in. A natural orbit, a natural behavior. Most moons in the solar system orbit on a tilted, elliptical path. They spin, they wobble. Not Earth's moon. Its orbit is nearly perfectly circular. Its face never changes, it always shows the same side to Earth. Its rotation is synchronized in a way no natural satellite should be. Some theorists call this locked surveillance, like a security camera in the sky. Why does the moon control so much? Think of it: tides, sleep cycles, reproductive rhythms, animal migrations, gravitational influence, solar eclipses. It's as if the moon is programmed to affect life on Earth, almost like it's meant to be there, like it was placed there deliberately. Some researchers suggest the moon acts as a planetary stabilizer, keeping Earth's tilt consistent, preventing climate chaos. So, here's the question. If the moon is that essential, then who or what ensured it was exactly where it needed to be? Silence from official agencies. NASA has never officially endorsed the hollow moon theory. Neither has ESA or Roscosmos. But documents from declassified archives suggest they've investigated it quietly for decades. During the Cold War, both the US and the Soviet Union had secret projects to study or even destroy parts of the moon. Project A119, a declassified US military plan, proposed detonating a nuclear bomb on the moon. Why? Some say it was to send a political message to the Soviets. Others believe they were testing if the moon was hollow. Ancient myths, same story. From the Zulu tribes in Africa to the legends of the Maya and Aztecs, there are ancient tales of a time before the moon. One Zulu legend even states the moon was brought here by two brothers from the stars, who rolled it across the sky and parked it above the earth. Sound crazy? Maybe. But why do so many ancient cultures describe the moon as an intruder? And why do they all describe it as arriving suddenly? What if it's not just hollow but occupied? Let's go further. What if the moon isn't just hollow? What if something is inside it? Think about it. No one is allowed to go back to the moon after Apollo 17. China, India, and private space programs have tried exploring it but keep hitting technical issues. Unexplained signals from the far side of the moon recorded, then denied. LRO lunar reconnaissance orbiter images showing artificial-looking structures, but always blurry. Could it be that inside the moon there's an ancient alien station? Could it be watching us? And then ask yourself, what if it's all true? Let's connect the dots. The moon's impossible alignment, the bell-like ringing from Apollo 12, the lack of rotation, the perfect circular orbit, the ancient stories of its sudden appearance, the consistent cover-ups and secrecy. Too many coincidences, too many questions, too much silence. So we ask again, is the moon just a moon, or is it a machine? If the moon is artificial, if it was placed there, then it didn't happen by chance. Someone put it there, and whoever they were, they wanted us to think it was natural. They wanted us to never question it. But now we are, and the answers might be darker than we can imagine. What does NASA know about the moon, and why aren't they telling us? Why did the radio go silent during the most important moment in human history? July 20th, 1969. The world held its breath. Millions were watching. Neil Armstrong was about to become the first human to set foot on the moon. And then for exactly 2 minutes the live feed cut out. No explanation, no technical details, just static. What happened during those 2 minutes? Why was the audio feed lost at the exact moment he stepped onto alien soil? And more importantly, what did NASA not want the public to hear? The lost transmission. What did Apollo 11 really see? According to official records, the interruption during the Apollo 11 moon landing was due to a switching error by technicians in Australia. But insiders tell a different story. Former NASA employees, technicians, radio operators, and intelligence insiders have come forward over the decades. And they say those 2 missing minutes contain something incredible, something disturbing. One retired NASA communications engineer, Otto Binder, leaked this in a 1979 radio interview. Armstrong saw 2 massive UFOs on the rim of a crater, silently observing them. According to Binder, an anonymous radio ham operator who had his own VHF equipment tuned into NASA frequencies claimed to have heard this. "They're here. They're parked on the edge of the crater. They're watching us." Neil Armstrong's cryptic words. Publicly, Neil Armstrong never spoke about UFOs, but he did drop hints. Years after the mission, while speaking to a group of students, Armstrong made a chilling statement. "There are great ideas, undiscovered breakthroughs available to those who can remove one of truth's protective layers." What protective layers was he talking about? And why speak in riddles? Buzz Aldrin, also on the Apollo 11 mission, later admitted in an interview that they saw a light moving parallel to them during the flight. At first, they thought it might be part of their rocket, but later they weren't so sure. NASA told them to not speculate. Apollo astronauts silenced. Why is it that so many Apollo astronauts became reclusive after their missions? Neil Armstrong refused nearly all interviews for the rest of his life. Buzz Aldrin, at times, showed signs of psychological distress when asked about the mission. Edgar Mitchell, Apollo 14, outright declared, "We are not alone. They've been watching us for a long time." Mitchell spent the rest of his life researching consciousness and extraterrestrial life. Was he trying to tell us something? Leaked tapes and audio anomalies. Over the years, several audio clips and transcripts from Apollo missions have emerged. Many are chilling. Apollo 10, a strange whistling sound later labeled space music, was recorded for almost an hour. NASA scientists later claimed it was radio interference, but the audio is available publicly, and it doesn't sound like interference. Apollo 15, a voice is heard whispering, not matching any crew member. Apollo 17, we saw a flash. No, it's moving. What is that? Even more disturbing, several NASA technicians have anonymously claimed audio is often scrubbed or distorted before public release. Why? Project Moondust, the hidden investigation. Most people haven't heard of it, but it's real. Project Moondust was a top-secret U.S. government program during the Cold War, allegedly created to recover objects of unknown origin, including spacecraft debris, foreign satellites, and possibly UFO-related material. Though not publicly connected to NASA's moon missions, several documents from the 1970s mention Project Moondust in relation to unexplained lunar anomalies. IFOIA Freedom of Information Act request in the 1990s forced the U.S. government to release fragments of the project, but many pages were heavily redacted. One chilling line, however, survived. Lunar anomalies consistent with artificial structure cannot be dismissed. Wait, artificial structure on the moon. Why wasn't this headline news? Why NASA might be hiding the truth? Let's be honest, NASA is a government agency. It's not just about science, it's also about national security. If the moon is hollow, if it's artificial, if someone or something is watching us from it, then revealing that truth could cause global panic. spark religious and philosophical crisis, undermine trust in science and government, disrupt geopolitics and military strategies. But hiding the truth, that's easier. Control the narrative, control the footage, control the astronauts. Who else has tried to speak out? Over the past 50 years, dozens of former insiders have hinted at lunar secrets. Carl Wolf, former U.S. Air Force, claimed he saw photos of buildings on the moon while working in a secured facility. Donna Hare, former NASA contractor, said she was present when technicians were ordered to airbrush out UFOs from images. SKT, Karl Smirnov, Soviet Army, reported that Soviet lunar missions detected unknown structures before contact was lost. These are not YouTubers or conspiracy bloggers. These are military, scientific, and aerospace professionals. And they all say the same thing. There's something up there. China and India, the new eyes on the moon. NASA may have stopped sending humans to the moon, but China hasn't. The Chinese Space Agency, CNSA, has launched several lunar missions, and according to some unconfirmed leaks, their probes picked up anomalies on the far side of the moon. India's Chandrayaan-2 also detected thermal emissions in areas where there shouldn't be any. Energy, movement, machinery. Both governments remain tight-lipped. Are they discovering the same things NASA did and choosing to stay silent? Back to Apollo 11, the 2-minute silence. Let's return to that moment. The cameras go dark. The transmission ends. When it returns, Armstrong is standing on the moon, saying his famous line. But what happened before that? If those 2 minutes were just a technical issue, why is the audio classified? Why are the video feeds edited in every public archive? Why are questions shut down when asked in public interviews? Something doesn't add up. What if we've been lied to for 50 years? The moon is not just a rock in space, and NASA is not just a science agency. They hold secrets, enormous ones. Secrets that could rewrite human history, confirm we are not alone, prove intelligent life exists or existed on the moon. And every sign points to this. They know. They've always known. And they are not telling us. NASA may have taken us to the moon, but what they found there, they buried behind layers of bureaucracy, behind cryptic astronaut statements, behind redacted documents. But the cracks are showing. The truth is leaking, and we are starting to see what they didn't want us to see. Is something or someone living beneath the moon's surface? Have you ever wondered why we've never truly explored beneath the moon's surface? We landed, we took photos, we planted a flag, then we left, and for over 50 years, no human has returned. Why? What's down there that we're not supposed to find? And more importantly, who might be watching from underneath? Because recent evidence suggests one terrifying possibility. The moon may not be empty, it may be occupied. Massive caves and natural cracks, hidden openings. In the past decade, advanced satellites from NASA, China, India, and Japan have revealed something astonishing. The moon is full of giant cavities. These aren't just craters or natural pits. They are massive underground tunnels and hollowed-out chambers, some stretching tens of kilometers. In 2009, Japan's Kaguya probe detected a massive lava tube 50 kilometers long and 100 meters wide, enough to house a city. NASA followed up in 2017, confirming that such lava tubes could shelter entire bases from radiation and temperature swings. But here's the strange part. Some of these so-called lava tubes have no volcanic origin. They appear perfectly symmetrical, angled, geometrically aligned, and some connect directly to long surface cracks so evenly spaced that geologists are baffled. Nature doesn't build like that. Satellite images. What's being hidden on Google Moon? Try this. Go to Google Moon, the satellite map version of the lunar surface. Type in these coordinates: 2,242 feet 38.46 and 142 34.52, or 2734 26.35 and 1936 4.75 W. In both cases, you'll see large, blurred-out zones, just like how certain parts of Antarctica or military bases on Earth are blurred on Google Earth. Why is the moon supposedly lifeless being censored? Users across the internet have captured strange structures before they disappeared from Google Moon, including a glowing tower over 3 kilometers high casting a long shadow, a rectangular entrance at the edge of a crater, a pyramid-shaped anomaly perfectly shaped with 4 visible sides. Many of these were documented, archived, and then quietly scrubbed, gone, hidden from public eyes. A glowing tower that shouldn't exist. Let's talk about one of the most mysterious images ever captured on the moon. Nicknamed the Shard, this object was first photographed by Lunar Orbiter 3 in 1967. It appears to be a vertical, semi-transparent structure jutting out from the lunar surface several kilometers high. NASA never gave a satisfying explanation. They claimed it was an imaging error, light flare, shadow distortion. But independent researchers enhanced the photo using modern technology and concluded the structure has dimensionality, reflection, height, shadow. It is not a glitch. So the question is, who built it? Could it be a hidden alien base? Let's connect the dots. Giant underground tunnels, symmetrical cracks, glowing towers, blurred images, evidence of access points near key craters. These are not isolated incidents. They form a pattern pointing toward the possibility that an intelligent civilization, ancient or active, may have built a base inside the moon. In fact, Soviet scientists back in the 1970s proposed just that. They theorized the moon was an ancient spacecraft, now inactive on the outside but possibly operational from within. NASA, of course, never responded, but that silence is telling. What if the far side of the moon isn't empty? The moon is tidally locked. That means we only ever see one side from Earth. The far side, often called the dark side, is forever hidden from view. And that's exactly where most of the anomalies appear. China's Chang'e 4 mission was the first to land on the far side in 2019. And while their public statements were vague, leaked images claimed to show a cube-shaped structure standing alone on the horizon, unnatural heat signatures deep beneath the surface, echoes from beneath as if something was moving. The Chinese government has since refused to share the full data with the public. Why? What did they see? Whispers from whistleblowers. Several former military insiders and space agency employees have spoken cautiously about what may be under the lunar crust. Dr. Eric Morton, a former NASA consultant, stated, "There are thermal inconsistencies beneath certain craters. Something is generating energy down there." Gary McKinnon, a British hacker who broke into NASA servers in 2001, reported seeing images of giant cylindrical objects on the moon. He also found a spreadsheet titled Non-Terrestrial Officers. What does that mean? Are we being watched? If there's a base beneath the moon, it's in the perfect position, always facing Earth, always overhead, always observing. It could be a monitoring station, recording data, sending signals, watching civilizations rise and fall. Or, worse, it could be a containment field, keeping something in or keeping us under observation. The ancient Sumerians believed the moon was the eye of the gods. Maybe they weren't wrong. Official denials and subtle confirmations. NASA has always denied the existence of alien bases, but they've also made curious choices. No human missions to the moon since 1972. Constant funding cuts to lunar research. Missions focus solely on surface sampling, avoiding deep drilling. Evasive responses when asked about anomalies. Why? What are they afraid of discovering or revealing? In 2018, when asked in a congressional hearing why we haven't returned to the moon, a NASA official answered, "There are complexities. That's it. What if they're still active?" Some reports claim that UFOs have been tracked entering and exiting the moon's surface. In 2013, astronomers in Spain recorded 3 bright orbs rising from the moon's surface and accelerating away. In 2017, a telescope in Arizona captured a shadow entering a crater then vanishing. Are these maintenance drones, scout ships, or beings traveling back and forth unseen? We were told the moon is a dead rock, but the evidence is growing. Caves that could house civilizations, towers that glow without explanation, heat where there should be cold, blurred images, edited maps, censored data, and silence, always silence. If there's something living beneath the moon's surface, the question isn't what is it, it's how long has it been there? And why haven't we been told? The moon wasn't always there, was it placed into orbit? What if the moon isn't a natural part of our sky? What if it was never supposed to be there in the first place? This question might sound absurd to most, but look closer. The moon has some very strange characteristics and even stranger origins. Let's start with an unsettling truth. Ancient civilizations had no mention of the moon. Yes, no mention at all. Not in their earliest myths, not in their drawings, not in their sky maps. The silent skies before the moon. In the oldest Sumerian text Enuma Elish, the earliest cuneiform moon is simply missing. The ancient Bolivian Tiwanaku civilization, they described a time before the moon. Mayan legends, the moon appeared one night out of nowhere. Zulu shamans from Africa, they say the moon was brought here by 2 alien brothers. These stories span cultures, continents, and centuries. Could they all be wrong? Or are they all right in ways modern science can't explain? The moon just showed up one day. In Sumerian myth, the moon isn't always there. There's a period of darkness in their recorded skis, no mention of a glowing orb watching over Earth at night. Then, suddenly, stories say a celestial orb arrived. It glowed, it moved perfectly in sync with the sun, and it never left. Some interpretations of Sumerian texts call this object Nana, but Nana appears suddenly in later writings. Not from the beginning. This isn't just one civilization. Legends from the Dogon people in West Africa speak of a time when the sky had no moon, only stars. Roman historian Plutarch also referred to Arcadian tribes, people older than the moon. How can that be? How can entire civilizations exist before the moon? What the science doesn't tell you. The moon is bizarre. It's too big for a moon. It's too light for its size. Its orbit is too perfected, exactly matches the same face toward Earth, always. When NASA scientists analyzed seismic data from the moon landings, they were shocked. The moon rang like a bell. When Apollo 12 crashed part of its equipment into the lunar surface, it reverberated for over an hour. Some experts called it hollow. Others said it behaves like a shell. A hollow moon that defies all natural logic, unless it was built. The alien moon hypothesis. Now we go deeper into one of the most radical theories ever proposed. What if the moon isn't a natural satellite but a constructed one? Back in the 1970s, to Soviet scientists Vazen and Shcherbakov proposed that the moon was an artificial satellite created by an advanced civilization. Their paper, "Is the Moon the Creation of Alien Intelligence?" made headlines for a brief moment before being buried. They pointed out the moon's crust is made of heavy metals like titanium used in aerospace technology. Its exact position creates perfect solar eclipses, an astronomical impossibility without intelligent design. Its orbit stabilizes Earth's climate to perfectly, almost like someone wanted Earth to be habitable. Is that just cosmic luck, or precise alien engineering? The Watchers from Above. Here's where the ancient alien theory becomes chilling. Many believe the moon isn't just a passive observer. It's a base, a ship, a surveillance station. What if it was brought here to observe us? Not to destroy us, but to watch, to monitor human evolution from a safe, distant orbit. Let's go back to those Zulu legends. They claimed the moon was dragged across the sky by two brother Swan and Mpang, who arrived in a fiery vessel. They installed it in orbit to watch the Earth, to control tides, control growth, control us. This myth sounds ridiculous until you realize that every element of the moon's behavior supports this theory. It doesn't rotate like other celestial bodies. It's tidally locked. It's perfectly placed to affect tides, seasons, and even human biology. Why? Because it was meant to. Censored knowledge, ancient truths erased. The idea that the moon was placed implies someone put it there. But who? And more importantly, how would this knowledge be erased? There are gaps in early history, gaps in the geological record, and, disturbingly, gaps in NASA's public archives. Many Apollo mission photographs, specifically of the dark side of the moon, have been altered or blacked out. Some Google Moon users report massive structures being removed. Others speak of triangle-shaped shadows, craters with symmetrical edges, doors in the lunar crust. What are they hiding? And why has no country ever returned to the moon in over 50 years? Did they bring the moon? Let's circle back to the core theory. If Earth was seeded by extraterrestrials, as some ancient alien theorists believe, then the moon may be their control tower, a mothership, a lunar ark, a machine older than civilization itself. Imagine an alien race terraforms Earth, seeds it with life, then installs the moon to balance the planet and monitor progress. That would make us their experiment, their creation, their curiosity. If true, the moon is not a moon. It is a device, a machine. Next time you look up at the moon, ask yourself, why is it exactly the size it needs to be to cause perfect eclipses? Why does it always show the same face? Why does it ring like a hollow drum? And why did so many ancient cultures say it wasn't always there? We've been told the moon is natural, but legends, science, and secrecy suggest otherwise. So now, the question isn't, is the moon natural? It's, who put it there and what are they waiting for? Radio signals from the moon, who's sending them? What if the moon isn't silent? What if it's broadcasting? Have you ever wondered what sounds come from the dark side of the moon's side we never see? It's supposed to be lifeless, dead, quiet, but it's not. Strange signals have been recorded, signals that defy explanation. The dark side's mysterious radio waves. Since the dawn of space exploration, scientists have tried to listen in on the moon, and what they picked up shocked them. Radio telescopes around the world have occasionally recorded unusual, rhythmic signals coming from the far-sighted dark side of the moon. These aren't random bursts. They aren't static or cosmic noise. They're complex, structured, sometimes resembling patterns seen in human languages. In the 1960s, during Apollo missions, NASA engineers picked up such signals, but quickly cut off transmissions. Apollo 11, the cut transmission. The Apollo 11 mission was groundbreaking, but during the first moonwalk, the live radio feed suddenly stopped for 2 minutes. NASA's official explanation: technical difficulties. But former NASA insiders say otherwise. They claim the broadcast was cut because the astronauts were receiving strange signals from beneath the surface. Some reports say Neil Armstrong whispered, "There's something down there, something communicating." No further official comment was ever made. Radio telescopes hear the unheard. Outside NASA observatories, such as Arecibo, Green Bank, and others, have picked up mysterious radio emissions from the moon. In 1972, Arecibo's telescope detected a patterned series of pulses from the lunar surface. Mathematicians studying the signal noted it contained regular intervals, like a code. Skeptics say these were reflections of Earth-based transmissions, but the pattern was too complex, repeating in ways no natural source could produce. Even stranger, attempts to replicate or pinpoint the source failed. Could the moon be a galactic relay station? The theory is mind-blowing. The moon isn't just a satellite. It's a communication hub, a relay station for messages between planets. Alien civilizations, possibly ancient, could be using it to send and receive signals across space. This would explain why the moon is hollow and artificial, why there are structures beneath the surface, why strange radio signals come from its far side. It may be transmitting data from deep space or sending messages to other worlds. Patterns like language. Researchers analyzing signals from the moon have identified repeating sequences resembling linguistic structures, pulse groups separated by pauses, rising and falling frequencies, like intonation, complex codes that resemble binary or even primitive alphabets. This challenges the assumption that extraterrestrial communication would be incomprehensible. Instead, it suggests the moon could be an ancient interstellar post office, passing along messages in code, government silence, and secrecy. If such signals exist, why has NASA never publicly acknowledged them? Whistleblowers claim Apollo mission audio was censored to hide anomalous sounds. The U.S. military runs classified projects to monitor lunar communications. Agencies like NORAD and NSA have files marked lunar anomalies that remain secret. In 2001, a leaked Pentagon memo referred to unexplained electromagnetic pulses coming from the moon's far side. Nothing official ever came of it. Why hide it? The existence of lunar transmissions implies intelligent life or ancient technology. This would change everything. The history of the moon, our place in the universe, the origins of life on Earth, contact with alien civilizations. Governments may suppress this knowledge to prevent panic or to keep strategic advantage. What could the signals mean? If the moon is a relay station, what kind of messages are sent? Are they warnings, coordinates, scientific data, greetings or invitations? Some believe the signals could even be instructions for use to prepare for contact. The moon isn't just a rock, it's a broadcaster, a monitor, a messenger, and the question remains, who is sending the signals? And are they watching you right now? Why are all the moon's craters unusually shallow? Why do all the moon's craters look the same? Have you ever noticed? Every impact crater on the moon, big or small, is about the same depth. They don't get deeper as the impact gets bigger. That's strange. It's unnatural. And it might just be the biggest clue yet that the moon is hollow. The mystery of uniform crater depths. Scientists have studied the moon's surface for decades. They expected bigger meteor impacts to create deeper craters. But the data tells a different story. The craters all share a surprisingly consistent depth range. No crater penetrates below a certain limit. Why? Is there a solid surface beneath preventing deeper impact? No iron core, no magnetic field. Unlike Earth, the moon has no molten iron core, no strong magnetic field. This is unusual for a planetary body of its size. Typically, planets have a molten core generating magnetism. Without this, the moon shouldn't have the same gravity, the same crust stability, but it does. This hints the moon isn't a natural rock. It might be a shell, a hollow shell theory. What if the moon is a massive shell with something inside? Something hidden? The crater depth limit supports this. Impacts only penetrate the shell's thickness. Beneath, unknown. Perhaps an alien base, an ancient spacecraft, a natural hollow formed by unknown forces. Scientists call it the hollow moon hypothesis. Why hide the core? If the moon is hollow, what's inside? NASA's Apollo mission sent seismic instruments, which recorded strange moonquakes. Unlike earthquakes, these moonquakes last longer, travel oddly, suggest a hollow interior. This has baffled geologists. A structural enigma. The moon's surface has rigid tectonic plates, but no signs of volcanic activity or internal heat. Usually, tectonic movement is caused by molten rock, but the moon is cold, dead, and inactive. No heat means no geological activity. Yet, the moon's surface behaves as if it's a rigid shell. Could the moon be a giant spacecraft? If the moon is a shell hiding a hollow inside, then what? Many UFO researchers argue the moon is an artificial satellite. It's a giant spacecraft that's been orbiting Earth for millions of years. The craters are just dents on its outer hull. The magnetic field mystery. Earth's magnetic field protects us from solar radiation. The moon has a weak, patchy magnetic field. Scientists struggle to explain why. One theory is the magnetic field comes from inside the shell, generated by alien tech or unknown physics, an alien hideout or an observation post. If the moon is hollow, it might be an alien observation post. Its shell protects occupants from cosmic radiation. Impacts only dent the surface, never reaching inside. From there, aliens could observe Earth without interference. The final question: why hasn't modern science accepted this? Because the implications are terrifying. If the moon is artificial, hollow, and inhabited, our history is a lie. Our understanding of the solar system is incomplete. Someone else may have been here long before us. The uniform crater depths, lack of core, and strange magnetic properties all point to one thing: the moon is not what we think it is. It's a hollow shell hiding secrets inside, secrets waiting to be uncovered. Pilots have seen flying objects around the moon. Have pilots really seen UFOs circling the moon? What if the moon isn't just a lifeless rock but a launch pad? And what if they've always been watching us from there? For decades, commercial and military pilots have whispered about strange objects that defy logic darting in and out of the moon's shadow. Some reports were laughed off, others silenced, but a few never went away. 1. Project Blue Book and the cases they couldn't explain. Let's rewind to the 1950s. Project Blue Book, the U.S. Air Force's secretive program to investigate UFOs, reviewed thousands of sightings. While many were labeled weather balloons or atmospheric anomalies, several reports included chilling details: crafts emerging from the moon's surface and vanishing at impossible speeds. One 1953 report, logged near Okinawa, described a metallic disk flying from the moon's horizon directly toward Earth, reaching the stratosphere in under 30 seconds before disappearing. Blue Book marked it as unresolved, but internal notes leaked decades later referred to it as a lunar departure object. What was leaving the moon? 2. The Lubbock Lights, a clue pointing moonward. Lubbock, Texas. Hundreds witnessed eerie formations of lights perfectly symmetrical sweeping across the night sky. Initially thought to be experimental aircraft, the formations displayed movements too coordinated and fast for anything human-made at the time. One astrophysicist reviewing the incident pointed out a detail often overlooked. The objects seemed to move in rhythm with the moon's orbit, as if tied to a coincidence or evidence. Were these lights merely passing Earth on their way to somewhere, or returning home? 3. Phoenix Lights they never really left. March 13, 1997. The Phoenix Lights became one of the most well-documented UFO mass sightings in history. Thousands across Arizona saw enormous V-shaped craft, massive and glowing, hovering over cities before darting into the sky. But here's what mainstream reports missed. Astronomers in Flagstaff tracked unusual activity on the moon's surface just hours before the event: heat readings, energy flares, brief, sharp pulses of light. Then came the lights in Phoenix. It was as if something was deployed or returned. 4. They've always been there, a NORAD officer speaks out. In a rare and chilling interview in 2008, retired NORAD officer LT Col. James Roswell alias made a cryptic statement. They don't come from Alpha Centauri. They don't come from Mars. They've always been here. We built our radar systems around that assumption. When asked to clarify, he said only, "Look to the moon, not just at it." This aligns with declassified NORAD documents showing routine tracking of non-terrestrial objects originating from near-lunar orbit. What's more disturbing, these objects were logged decades before the first satellite was ever launched. 5. Astronaut testimonies, what they didn't air on TV. Buzz Aldrin, Edgar Mitchell, Gordon Cooper, all of them hinted some more directly than others that there was something up there. something they couldn't explain, something they weren't allowed to talk about. In a 2006 radio interview, Mitchell, the sixth man to walk on the moon, stated, "There's a presence up there, not ours, and not Russia's." He quickly retracted the statement, but the words were already out. Neil Armstrong was even more cryptic. At a press conference following Apollo 11, when asked if they saw anything unexpected, he responded, "There are great ideas yet undiscovered, breakthroughs available to those who can remove one of truth's protective layers." A warning or a plea. 6. The shadows that move on the moon. Modern astronomers have increasingly reported moving shadows on the lunar surface, shapes that shift unnaturally against craters, then vanish. Not meteorites, not tricks of light. These transient lunar phenomena (TLPs) were once dismissed as hallucinations. Now, even NASA acknowledges them without explaining them. Could they be craft stationed inside the moon merging only when needed? It would explain why so many UFO flight paths are traced back to the moon. Even Elon Musk once joked in a live stream, "If aliens are real, they're probably living inside the moon. It's the perfect hideout." Was he joking? Or hinting? 7. The unseen moon dark side, dark truth. The moon never turns its backside to Earth. That dark side remains in constant shadow to us. Why? It's one of the only moons in the solar system tidally locked, always presenting one face. A convenient coincidence if you're hiding something. Satellite imagery of the far side of the moon reveals anomalous structure, asymmetric formations, towers, even signs of artificial terrain. Most were dismissed as digital artifacts, until a high-res Chinese lunar orbiter captured something shaped like a hangar. China quickly deleted the photo. Too late, it was archived. 8. A cycle of sightings always around the moon. From ancient times to now, sightings of flying disks, glowing orbs, and silent black triangles seem to cluster around lunar phases. Full moons bring increased sightings. Lunar eclipses, even more. It's almost like the moon isn't just a rock, it's a station, a base, a place from which they watch and occasionally emerge. 9. So who's really up there? Aliens, ancient civilizations, artificial intelligence. What if it's not Hobart? What? A self-replicating intelligence seeded eons ago, a satellite observing us since humanity's dawn, a monitoring beacon. The possibilities are terrifying, and the silence from official agencies even more so. 10. And if they come from the moon, what then? We've always looked up at the moon with wonder, but maybe we should have looked with caution. What if the biggest cover-up isn't Area 51? What if it's right above us every single night? Why are some areas of the moon blurred out? Why are parts of the moon blurred out on Google Moon? Who decides what we're allowed to see and what we're not? Let's begin with something simple. In Google Earth, switch to Moon View. Now zoom in. You'll notice something odd. Some craters are crystal clear, but others are pixelated, blurred, even completely blacked out. Why? Why would a lifeless rock in space need redaction? Unless it's not lifeless, and it's not just a rock. The curious case of blurred zones. In 2010, amateur sky watchers using Google Moon discovered several areas that were visibly distorted, not due to low resolution or image compression but intentional censorship. Blacked out squares, fuzzy rectangles, areas that should have shown impact craters or geological formations replaced by gray blocks. Some even resembled the familiar mosaic sensor we see in classified military satellite imagery. So again we sensor a dead celestial body. Theories began to swirl in online forums, especially among the UFO community. Are secret bases being hidden? Could large alien structures be buried beneath the lunar surface? Or worse, are they active on the surface and watching us? A giant that vanished overnight. In 2013, a German amateur astronomer named Markus Lieber made waves after publishing a video showing a massive triangular object slowly moving along the moon's surface. The footage, captured over several hours using a high-powered telescope and image tracking software, revealed something eerie. The object cast a shadow. It had dimensional depth, and it moved intelligently. But just days later, the coordinates where he had filmed the object were no longer visible on Google Moon. The region was now blurred. The same shadow no longer appeared. Even stranger, the original video was quietly removed from most platforms, citing copyright claims. Claims that didn't seem to belong to any specific company. Was it just a coincidence? Or a deliberate takedown? The discrepancy in the maps. Next came the comparison game. Researchers began comparing NASA's official lunar map, Google Moon overlays, private satellite imagery from independent companies, Apollo mission photographs from decades ago. What they found shocked many. In several regions, especially around the Tycho crater, the Mare Tranquillitatis, and the far side of the moon landmarks seemed to shift, vanish, or be present in one data set but not in another. Even shadows from supposed rocks or ridges changed shapes or disappeared entirely, depending on the source. One chilling possibility emerged. Someone is digitally altering the images, and not just in one place but across multiple sources. Who would do this and why? Let's ask the most uncomfortable question. Who benefits from hiding parts of the moon? NASA officially states that the image quality and stitching process can lead to blurring. They call it technical limitations. But these aren't compression artifacts. They're deliberate obfuscations. Former military satellite technician James Ragsdale, in a 2009 declassified testimony, mentioned this during his work with high-orbit lunar observation systems. We had code protocols called Sky Shield events where we were instructed to override or distort incoming data from certain coordinates. I was told it was due to foreign satellites. But some of those coordinates were on the moon. Another voice more direct came from Air Force Colonel William Peath, who worked with NORAD tracking systems in the 80s. In a leaked interview, he said, "The moon is not a place we go to understand. It's a place we avoid understanding." Cryptic, yes, but revealing. The giant structures no one talks about. Back in 1968, NASA's own lunar orbiter to photograph what looked like a tower-like object rising over 1 mile high from the lunar surface. Unofficially dubbed the Shard, this needle-like silhouette was located near the Copernicus crater. No geological process could explain it. It cast a massive shadow, and yet it was never discussed in official briefings. Today, try finding it on Google Moon. It's gone. The crater is there, but the shard is missing. Anomalies that keep disappearing. Multiple amateur astronomers have tried to document anomalies, but many report the same problem. They find something strange. They take note of the coordinates. They come back days later, and it's no longer there. Or worse, it's still there, but the footage is now inconclusive. Is the moon morphing? Or is someone actively scrubbing the data? Even videos that went viral, like the 2014 lunar shadow craft video filmed by Italian astronomer Alberto Trolla, vanished under DMCA claims. No corporate copyright, just vague removals. And eerie silence. Who controls the moon's narrative? There's a term in the intelligence world: controlled narrative. You don't erase the story. You just redirect it, confuse it, overwhelm the public with so much doubt, they stop asking. Could the same tactic be used here? NASA collaborates closely with the U.S. Department of Defense, the National Reconnaissance Office, private satellite contractors like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman. These are not just science organizations. They're defense giants, entities with clearance levels above the president, entities who don't want the public asking too many questions about what's really out there. Google, the gatekeeper. Let's not forget Google itself. Google Earth, Google Moon, Google Maps, all run through Google servers, with access rights managed centrally, meaning they can be altered instantly and you'd never know. Some speculate that Google has agreements with government agencies to blur out sensitive areas that just on Earth, but in space. Think about it. Military bases on Earth, blurred. Top secret islands, blurred. The moon, blurred. Same pattern, same silence. The blurred truth. If there's nothing to hide, why hide anything at all? We're told the moon is lifeless, silent, dormant. Yet, everything we've uncovered so far screams the opposite. Moving objects, censored images, inconsistent shadows, vanished footage, military statements cloaked in half-truths. So, what are they hiding? A base? An ancient civilization? An observation post? Or something even more unthinkable? Final thought. The moon is the most visible object in our night sky. It's right there, watching us. And yet, we know so little. Or maybe we did know more before it was blurred. Just ask yourself, if the moon is nothing but rock and dust, why are we never shown everything? The real reason for the moon landing. What if the moon landing wasn't just about beating the Soviets? What if the whole space race was a cover-up? In 1969, the world watched in awe as Neil Armstrong took his legendary giant leap for mankind. But behind the glory, behind the American flag planted in the lunar dust, there's a question that still haunts researchers, whistleblowers, and conspiracy theorists alike. What did NASA really go to the moon for? A mission beyond politics. The official story is simple. The United States, locked in a Cold War with the Soviet Union, raced to the moon to prove its technological and ideological superiority. It was about national pride, scientific progress, peaceful exploration. But recently declassified documents from the CIA suggest something deeper, something hidden. A file marked Apollo secondary objectives doesn't list anything about planting a flag or collecting rocks. Instead, it references things like electromagnetic anomaly surveys, unidentified lunar structures, and return cargo not to be disclosed to public. Wait, return what? They brought something back, and it wasn't just rocks. This quote doesn't come from a sci-fi movie. It comes from Ken Johnston, former manager of the Data and Photo Control Department at NASA's Lunar Receiving Laboratory. In multiple interviews, Johnston stated that the Apollo astronauts photographed and retrieved strange artifacts from the moon, some metallic, some crystalline, all kept from the public. Johnston also claimed that some images were airbrushed before being released to the press. Structures that looked artificial were removed. Symmetrical shapes, tower-like formations, geometric patterns gone. He was later fired after refusing to destroy original lunar photos. Coincidence or cleanup? The silent room, Apollo 11's blackout. You've probably heard the iconic phrase, "Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed." But what happened right after that? For 2 full minutes, NASA's live feed went silent. Officials blamed technical glitches, but a former NASA communications operator who spoke anonymously in a 2001 interview revealed something spine-chilling. During the blackout, Armstrong reportedly sent a coded message. "They're here, they're watching us." That message never made it to the public broadcast. The Russian connection. Declassified KGB files released in the early 1990s tell a strikingly similar tale. Soviet spies embedded in the American aerospace industry reported rumors that Apollo missions had discovered alien technology on the moon. One document, titled Operation Dark Horizon, alleged that both American and Soviet intelligence were aware of structures on the far side of the moon. The document even suggested joint efforts between the two superpowers to keep these findings away from the public eye. Think about that. To Cold War enemies possibly cooperating or something bigger than politics. The secret within the Saturn V. Do you know how much thrust the Saturn V rocket produced? Over 7.6 million pounds. It didn't just carry astronauts and lunar modules. According to an aerospace contractor who later turned whistleblower, the rocket's lower stage had a sealed compartment listed on any public blueprint. Its contents, unknown. That here's where it gets creepy. In the contractor's words, it was designed for containment, not cargo. Whatever went inside wasn't meant to come back out. Who were the men in black after Apollo? You've heard the stories? Strange men in dark suits showing up after UFO sightings, asking questions, threatening silence. But did you know multiple Apollo scientists reported being followed, harassed, and even threatened after returning from mission work? Dr. Carl Wolf, a former Air Force technician who worked with NASA's Lunar Orbiter project, went public with his testimony in 2001. He claimed to have seen images of artificial structures on the moon taken before the Apollo landings. Soon after his revelation, Wolf's family reported multiple break-ins, anonymous phone calls, and surveillance vans parked near their home. In 2018, Dr. Wolf died in a mysterious bicycle accident. Coincidence or cover-up? The missing moon rocks. Here's something weird. NASA brought back 842 pounds, 382 kilograms of lunar material from the moon. Rocks, soil, dust collected across 6 missions. But according to a 2009 audit, over 500 individual lunar samples were either lost, stolen, or unaccounted for. Some ended up in the hands of private collectors. Others simply vanished. Why was tracking these priceless samples so sloppy? Or was it intentional? Could some of those rocks have held something else, something not meant for human understanding? The Apollo 18 mystery. Officially, the Apollo program ended with Apollo 17. But what about Apollo 18? Many believe the mission was canceled due to budget cuts. But leaked footage, most famously compiled in the 2011 mockumentary-style film Apollo 18, tells a different story. Clips allegedly recovered from classified archives show astronauts exploring a crater filled with unnatural shapes. A lifeless astronaut with unknown organisms growing inside his suit. Panic and then silence. NASA denies the authenticity of these tapes. But ask yourself, if a secret mission did go wrong, wouldn't denial be expected? The new race back to the moon. Fast forward to today. Why is everyone suddenly racing back to the moon? NASA is developing the Artemis program. China is accelerating its Chang'e missions. Even private companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin are involved. What's the rush? Some theorists believe it's not about science, it's about retrieval. To finish what Apollo started. To dig deeper, bring back more. Or perhaps stop something that was left behind. What was Apollo really about? Let's revisit the facts. Whistleblowers say something was retrieved. Photos were airbrushed. Rocks disappeared. There was a 2-minute blackout. Secret compartments. Lost samples. Strange men in suits. A push to return big governments and billionaires alike. It all points to one chilling possibility. The moon landing was never just about exploration. It was a mission of discovery and containment. Something is up there. And maybe, just maybe, it's not asleep anymore. The moon was bombed, but why? Why would anyone bomb the moon? Why would NASA detonate an explosive device on a celestial body that's supposed to be dead, lifeless, and harmless? Sounds like a sci-fi plot, but this actually happened. And what's even more disturbing, it might have been only a warning shot. The explosion that no one talks about. In 2009, NASA carried out a mission called LCROSS Lunar Crater Observation and Sensing Satellite. Publicly, it was a scientific experiment. They crashed a 2.2-ton rocket stage into the moon's surface at over 9,000 kilometers per hour. The impact created a massive plume of lunar dust, which was then analyzed for water ice. So far, so scientific. But people watching the live broadcast noticed something odd. The explosion was much larger than expected. Some even speculated there was a secondary detonation, one that NASA didn't talk about. Was it just about water? Or were they testing something else? The chilling truth behind Project A119. The truth is, this wasn't the first time someone tried to bomb the moon. Let's go back all the way to the Cold War. In the late 1950s, the United States launched a highly classified plan known as Project A119. The objective: detonate a nuclear bomb on the moon. Yes, you read that right. An actual nuclear explosion in space on the moon. Why? Because America was desperate to show dominance over the Soviet Union in space. A nuclear flash on the moon's surface would be visible from Earth. It would be the ultimate display of technological power, space flex before the whole world. But here's where it gets even stranger. The project was abandoned officially because of public backlash and scientific risks. But unofficially, some believe the mission was never really canceled, just moved into the shadows. Was the moon the real target? Many theorists argue that the purpose of bombing the moon was never about science or optics. It was about testing something, or worse, destroying something. Let's look at the claims. When the LCROSS mission detonated, seismic waves rippled across the moon, and they didn't behave like they should have. The moon rang like a bell, according to Apollo scientists. That strange echo lasted for hours. A hollow body would do that, or one filled with massive underground chambers. So ask yourself, Why would the US government test a nuclear explosion on a hollow object? What were they listening for? Are there structures beneath the surface? Several Apollo astronauts, including Buzz Aldrin and Edgar Mitchell, have hinted at things they saw or sensed during their missions. Edgar Mitchell famously stated, "We were not alone. Our mission was closely monitored." But monitored by who or what? Some leaks suggest that lunar orbiters photographed massive structures near the South Pole, right where LCROSS crashed. One image later scrubbed from NASA's servers shows an unnatural hexagonal formation. Another shows what appears to be a tower, casting a long shadow. Could these be alien installations, or remnants of an ancient civilization? And if such things did exist, wouldn't a government want to test the structural integrity or attempt to collapse an entrance? Control silenced the information blackout. After the LCROSS impact, many amateur astronomers noticed something else. NASA's feed was cut within seconds. The expected debris plume wasn't shown. And then total silence. The official statement, "Cloud too thin for visuals." But experts pushed back. Telescopes around the world were prepared to watch the impact, yet barely any usable footage emerged. So, what really happened in that crater? And more importantly, what didn't NASA want us to see? The conspiracy that refuses to die. Project A119 was declassified in the 1990s, but many pages are still redacted. There's one section labeled Unusual Acoustic Return Phenomena. Another section references subsurface interference patterns. Scientists close to the program who later spoke anonymously claimed, "We weren't trying to test a weapon. We were testing a reaction." But reaction from what? Something underground, something living. What if the moon isn't what we think? Here's where it gets wild. Some theorists and even a few fringe physicists believe the moon might be an artificial construct. There are reasons. The moon's orbit is too perfect. It's the exact size needed to create total solar eclipses. It shouldn't exist where it is. And its density is too low for its size, suggesting it's not solid rock. Some believe it was placed there. By whom? Aliens. Advanced pre-human civilizations. One radical theory suggests the moon is a monitoring station placed to observe Earth, a type of celestial surveillance device. And if that's true, then bombing it might not be about testing. It might be about sending a message. Were they trying to destroy something? What if there was something beneath the surface that governments didn't want anyone to find? A gateway, an archive, a ship. One leaked document refers to a site named Anomaly V7P, located in a region exactly where LCROSS hit. Another memo, allegedly from a contractor at Lockheed Martin, warns, "Do not initiate detonation protocol unless verification of dormant state confirmed. Risk of awakening phase 2 object." Is this all just creative fiction? Or was something asleep under the moon and they tried to kill it? What comes next? NASA is returning to the moon with Project Artemis. But many observers are skeptical of the official goals. Why return now after decades of silence? Why land near the same crater LCROSS bombed? Why are military contractors now heavily involved? And perhaps most importantly, why is the public being shown one narrative while satellite data is being classified again? Final thought. Bombs are not for rocks. Rocks don't need to be silenced. Rocks don't keep secrets. Rocks don't monitor humanity from orbit. But something else might. And if the moon isn't just a moon, if it's more than what we've been told, then maybe, just maybe, we weren't trying to test it. We were trying to shut it up. Testimony from the U.S. military. We once saw a gateway on the moon. What if the moon isn't just a rock, but a doorway? One former U.S. radar technician says he saw it with his own eyes. A round object on the moon. It opened like a gate. This wasn't a rumor. It wasn't a fuzzy photograph. It was a high-level military radar scan. And what he saw, a circular shape opening and closing like a mechanical structure. Let's dive deep, because this is where the moon mystery becomes something even more disturbing. The radar blip that shouldn't exist. In 1996, Sergeant Marcus Ellison was stationed at a classified military installation in New Mexico. His job, monitor deep space radar arrays tracking lunar activity. A job that, according to him, was 90% boring, 10% nightmare. On a quiet Tuesday, the radar picked up a spike movement on the lunar surface. Not an asteroid, not space junk, a perfectly circular object tapering, then vanishing again within minutes. But it wasn't just the shape that shocked him. It was the motion. It didn't roll. It didn't drift. It opened like the iris of a camera. Then it sealed shut. Marcus wasn't alone. At least 5 other radar techs, across 3 different sites, confirmed the same anomaly. The event was logged. Then just as quickly it disappeared from the logs, wiped. Except for one thing, Marcus kept a printed radar image, hidden for 17 years. The similarity to Skinwalker Ranch and Antarctica. Here's where the story gets even wilder. You've probably heard of Skinwalker Ranch, a hotspot in Utah infamous for UFOs, interdimensional beings, and bizarre electromagnetic phenomena. What's less known? The portal-like event captured on camera by military contractors in 2016. A round shape, opening midair, swallowing light. Sound familiar? Now compare that with an incident in Antarctica, 2001. A scientific team stationed near Dome C claimed to see a luminous circle, rotating in the air, then vanishing into the ice. The footage never reached the public, but leaked reports hinted at the same keywords. Gate, rotation, controlled movement. Could all 3 be connected? Could there be artificial gates possibly for travel placed on Earth and one on the moon? And the bigger question, who put them there? Are these dimensional portals? Let's entertain a controversial idea. One not from science fiction but from ancient texts and bleeding-edge physics. What if the moon isn't just a natural satellite? What if it's a station, a hub, a checkpoint for interstellar or interdimensional traffic? Many quantum physicists believe that wormhole shapophylic tunnels through space-time are possible under extreme gravitational conditions. Now think about this. The moon has no real magnetic field. It rings like a bell when struck. Its surface is pockmarked with unnaturally shallow craters, despite massive impacts. And now reports of a mechanical gate opening and closing. Is it really so crazy to think someone or something left a mechanism there? Not to be used by humans, but to be watched by them, studied. Control, official silence, and unofficial whispers. After the radar incident, Sergeant Ellison says he was visited by 2 unidentified men, not military, not in uniform. They asked about the printout, asked if he had shared it, asked if he believed what he saw was natural. When he replied, no, they simply said, "Good. You're starting to understand." The next week, He was transferred to an unrelated post and never worked with deep space radar again. But unofficially, he kept digging. According to declassified FOIA documents, a project known as Lunar Access Study was quietly funded in the 1980s. Its purpose, to assess anomalies on the moon's far side. One redacted report referenced Vor-like activity detected in 1987 and again in 1991. The term lunar iris motion appears multiple times. That term doesn't exist in astronomy. It exists in engineering. More whistleblowers come forward. Since 2000, 3 other whistleblowers, stoics NASA employees, and 1 intelligence analyst have hinted at the same thing. One, under anonymity, claimed, "There are parts of the moon we were told never to point the cameras at, not because of privacy but because of risk of activating something." Another mentioned, "We received feedback loops, radar pulses bouncing in strange ways. It was like the surface was responding, not passively, like sonar returning from an open system." And the third, he just said 5 words. "It's not what we think. The moon as a surveillance post." Let's combine the theories. What if the moon is hollow? What if it houses a gate or mechanism that opens periodically? What if this mechanism isn't human matter but was left behind? And finally, what if it's not passive? What if the moon isn't just watching Earth, but watching something else? An entrance, a defense, or a trap? There's even one terrifying hypothesis, that every time humanity points powerful instruments at the moon it activates a sort of alarm system, a countdown, or a gateway we were never meant to open. Ancient clues and modern fears. Ancient cultures around the world revered the moon not just as a celestial body but as a being. Some believed it housed gods, others feared it as the home of sky demons. In Mesopotamian mythology, the moon god Sin was described as the one who opens the sky. Even stranger, ancient petroglyphs in Bolivia and Australia show circular objects with radioluminescent opening. What if they saw it too? And what if modern governments are still seeing it now? Final questions? If Sergeant Ellison was right, if what he saw was real, then we must ask, who built that gate? Where does it lead? Why is it hidden from the public? And most haunting of all, what happens when it opens again? Because one thing is clear, the moon is not just rock and dust, it's a machine, and the gate is waiting. What if the moon is an artificial satellite? Tethan who built it? What if the moon wasn't always there? What if it was placed with purpose? That's not just a sci-fi fantasy. Some researchers believe we've been living with a massive artificial satellite hovering above us without ever realizing its true origin. And it starts with one bizarre question. Why does the moon fit the sun so perfectly during an eclipse? The coincidence that shouldn't exist. Imagine this. The moon is 400 times smaller than the sun, and yet it's also 400 times closer to Earth than the sun. That perfect ratio makes total solar eclipses possible. The moon just barely covers the sun like a flawless puzzle piece. Astronomers call it a cosmic coincidence. But is it really? Or was it engineered? This chilling possibility is explored in a controversial book, Who Built the Moon? By Christopher Knight and Alan Butler. The Moon a Machine in Disguise? Knight and Butler argue that the moon is not a natural object at all. Instead, they claim it may be hollow inside, artificially positioned, mathematically coded. According to them, The moon is filled with impossible numbers and ratios. Its size and orbit are tuned to interact perfectly with Earth and the Sun. It stabilizes Earth's wobble, making life possible. Without it, our seasons and climate would collapse into chaos. And yet no other planet in the solar system has a moon even close to this behavior. They go further. The moon's distance, mass, speed, and rotation all follow a set of hidden patterns. It's as if someone or something designed it to be there. Ancient myths. Did our ancestors know? Ancient cultures often spoke of a time before the moon. Yes, before. In Colombia, the indigenous Bogota tribe has a legend that says, in the earliest times, before the moon had been placed in the sky. Even the Greeks had stories of Prosolenus, a people who lived before the moon existed. How could they have known that? Unless they remembered something we forgot. Was the solar system engineered? Let's zoom out. What if the moon is just one part of a larger design? Some theorists suggest that the entire solar system shows signs of cosmic architecture. For example, the Earth and Moon system is mathematically aligned with the golden ratio 1.618. Planetary distances from the Sun follow a repeating geometric sequence. Venus and Earth create a near-perfect five-pointed star, and their orbital dance every 8 years. Random chaos or celestial blueprint? What if an ancient intelligence for beyond human understanding built this structure? The builders. Who could they be? If the moon is artificial, the next question is terrifying. Who built it, and why? There are 3 popular theories. 1. An ancient alien race. According to the ancient astronaut theory, a highly advanced alien species visited our solar system in the deep past. They manipulated planets, seeded life, and built the moon as a control mechanism. Purpose: to stabilize Earth's environment, making it suitable for long-term life. Or maybe to observe us from above. A cosmic lab. 2. A lost human civilization. Some say we're not the first advanced species on Earth. An earlier human-like civilization, now lost to time or catastrophe, may have had godlike technology. Before vanishing, they placed the moon in orbit to guide future Earth generations or preserve balance in nature. The moon might be the last artifact of their reign. 3. A simulation control mechanism. For those who believe in the simulation theory, the moon is nothing more than a hardware node, like a satellite dish in the sky maintaining the illusion of our reality. Its perfect mathematical alignments. Code. Its influence over tides, time, and biology. Programming. When we look at the moon, we might be looking at a system admin tool from outside our universe. The hollow moon hypothesis. Reinforced. Back in Part 10, we discussed NASA's strange decision to detonate explosives on the moon. The result? It rang like a bell. Vibrations echoed for nearly an hour. Scientists were baffled. Why would solid rock behave like that? Unless the moon isn't solid at all. Unless it has inner chambers, equipment, or something else inside. Was NASA testing a theory they already knew? Were they trying to provoke a reaction from within? Or worse, were they trying to eliminate something? So many secrets. One orb. We look at the moon every night. It lights our path. It shapes our oceans. We sing about it. We dream under it. But what if it's not what we think? What if we're all living under a giant artifact, placed there by something beyond us? And what if it's still watching? Ask yourself. Why does the moon fit the sun perfectly during eclipses? Why do no other moons behave like ours? Why do ancient cultures claim the moon wasn't always there? Why do mathematical coincidences keep piling up? Maybe the better question, what are we not being told? We'll connect everything, from hidden bases to eclipse rituals, and finally ask, is the moon still active? And what's its final purpose? You don't want to miss it. The moon, a giant eye watching Earth. What if the moon isn't just a rock? What if it's watching us? We've reached the final chapter of this mind-bending series. Over 12 parts, we've uncovered strange patterns, leaked military files, ancient anomalies, and bizarre coincidences, all orbiting around one thing, the moon. Now, let's ask the most unsettling question of all. What if the moon is not a moon at all but a surveillance system, a pattern of control? Let's zoom out. Across ancient cultures, the moon wasn't just a celestial body, it was a god, a guardian, sometimes even a judge. The Sumerians believed in Sin, the moon god who kept cosmic order. In Egypt, Thoth, the moon deity, recorded all human actions. Native American tribes often describe the moon as a watcher in the sky. Coincidence, or ancient knowledge of something more? As we piece together the theories, a disturbing picture emerges. The moon might not be natural. It might not be empty. It might be alive. Surveillance satellite. Let's revisit the most extreme theories. Some researchers suggest the moon functions like a giant surveillance satellite, either built by an ancient advanced civilization from Earth or elsewhere, extraterrestrial beings monitoring Earth's development, or even artificial intelligence left behind from a galactic seed program. The goal? To observe, record, and possibly intervene when certain thresholds are crossed. Eye of the sky. NASA missions revealed something odd. The moon always presents the same face to Earth, a phenomenon known as tidal locking. But here's the twist. That one face, which looks down on us 24/7, has huge circular features, strange shadows, and what some interpret as lens-like formations. Is it pareidolia? Or are we staring back at a cosmic eye? Let's ask, if we humans had the technology to observe a developing civilization on another planet, wouldn't we build a satellite exactly like this? One that blends in, doesn't raise suspicion, and can watch constantly. Sound familiar? All roads lead to the moon. Let's connect the dots. Ancient structures like Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid align with lunar cycles. Apollo 12 seismic experiment revealed the moon rang like a bell. Russian scientists in the 1970s proposed the moon might be hollow and engineered. Christopher Knight's theory suggests it was placed at the perfect distance. And now, former military radar operators say they've seen openings on the moon that look like hangars or gates. Are all these things random? Or is the moon part of a coordinated system? Orbital anomaly. Here's something else strange. The moon is exactly 1/400th the size of the sun and also 1/400th the distance from Earth. That's why perfect solar eclipses happen the only such case in our known solar system. This precise ratio is so statistically rare that some believe it's not random at all. It's intentional, built for observation, maybe even to calibrate something. What kind of civilization would need such precision? The three theories' final summary. Let's break down the leading theories in this series one last time. 1. The alien base theory. suggests the far side of the moon is home to extraterrestrial operations, supported by leaked photos, astronaut testimonies, and missing NASA footage. 2. The hollow moon theory, based on seismic data and strange resonance patterns, proposes that the moon is a shell or even a giant spacecraft. 3. The surveillance eye hypothesis argues that the moon is a control center or observatory, possibly watching human evolution, supported by ancient mythology and the moon's bizarre behavior. Each theory is extreme, but together they feel less like fantasy and more like a forgotten truth. Emotional impact. What if it's true? Pause for a moment. What if everything we've explored is real? What if we are being watched, studied, or worse, managed? Would we act differently? Would we dare to dream bigger? Or would we feel trapped? The idea that a cold, silent guardian in the sky might be monitoring every civilization, every war, every technological leap is as awe-inspiring as it is terrifying. It means we're not alone, but it also means we're not in control. Final message to the viewer. This series was never about scaring you. It was about asking the questions no one dares to ask, about peeling back the comforting lie that the moon is just there. It's not just there. It's part of something older than us, smarter than us, and possibly still active. Final thought. Look up. Tonight, when you see the moon, ask yourself, is it looking back? So now, tell us, do you still believe the moon is just the moon? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this video if it gave you chills. And never stop asking, what's really up there?